ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः। अथ श्रीमद्भगवद्गीता अथ अष्टमोऽध्यायः। This is chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita, the 8th discourse of Bhagavan Krishna. The name of this chapter is Akshara Brahma Yoga, the yoga of imperishable Brahman. It is also called Abhyasa Yoga because this chapter has many slokas regarding the practice of sadhana. Many slokas are said by Bhagavan Krishna based on upasana and some are based on nididhyasana. So what is the difference between nididhyasana and upasana? Nididhyasana is that thinking about that abstract concept of Brahman, the formless Bhagavan. We have to think about that Nirguna Brahman, the Brahman without any attributes, qualities. We have to think about it, contemplate on it, and understand it. Understand and contemplate on it. That is Nididhyasana. This is the highest level of meditation and it is about the Nirguna Brahman, Brahman without any attributes or qualities or any form. Upasana is about the Saguna Brahman. This is the peak of bhakti. The people who are devoted to Saguna Brahma worship, they do upasana. That is thinking about that form of Bhagavan, remembering of that form of Bhagavan, the chanting mantras, silent meditation, all that belong to upasana. This is Saguna Brahma Upasana. Now, many slokas are given in this chapter based on upasana only, Saguna Brahman. Now, what are the benefits of upasana? In the material world, the benefits of upasana is when a person do upasana for a long time, then his mind is purified so that he can very easily understand the abstract concept of Brahman, that is the Nirguna Brahman. Nididhyasana will be very easy for him. That is one of the spiritual benefits. And the next thing is, when a person do upasana, then his mind will become very subtle and sharp and his awareness will expand. By that, he can attain what all he desires in this material world. This is the Ihaloka benefits, phala of upasana. So what is the paraloka benefits of upasana? After leaving this body, what will happen by this upasana? The main thing is, the person who do upasana constantly throughout his lifetime, he reach that loka on which he has done the upasana, on the Bhagavan who has done the upasana. For example, throughout his lifetime, he has done upasana on Bhagavan Vishnu and all the mantras regarding Bhagavan Vishnu or Narayana. Then he go to Vaikunta. Or if he has done upasana on Bhagavan Shiva, then he goes to Kailasa. So like this, there are different lokas. Now, what are these lokas? They are the level of existence of that subtle vibration or that level of consciousness. Our mind merges with that level of consciousness to that form of Bhagavan, to that attributes of Bhagavan. So, after leaving this body, we will be merged in with that yoga or that level of existence. Or one may go to Brahmaloka. From there, what they attain? Going to any other lokas or they go to Brahmaloka. And from there, they get practice to do Nirguna Nididhyasana, Nirguna Brahma Nididhyasana. And from there, they attain mukti or liberation. So they don't come back, but they attain mukti or liberation from that yoga, from that level of existence. This is called krama mukti. level by level or step by step mukti. When a person does nitidhyasana, then directly he attains mukti or liberation, which is called, when he attains liberation with this body itself, in this lifetime itself, it is called Jivan Mukti. Or after leaving this body, if he attains liberation, then it is called Videha Mukti. But in Upasana, what happens is they go to that loka, and from there they get this knowledge or Brahmajnana and get liberation. So they get Krama Mukti. So this is the difference between Nitidhyasana and Upasana. And many slokas are said by Bhagavan Krishna in this chapter about Upasana, and some slokas are about Nitidhyasana also. And in the last chapter, that is the last shloka of chapter 7, Jnana Vijnana Yoga, that chapter, Bhagavan Krishna introduced some philosophical terms. And in this chapter, Arjuna is asking about the explanation of those terms. So Sri Arjuna is asking the explanation of those terms said by Bhagavan Krishna in the last chapter. So this chapter begins with the question of Sri Arjuna. And so let us go deep into this chapter. So this is the overall view about this chapter. Now let us go deep in this chapter. अक्षरब्रह्मयोगः अर्जुन उवाच किं तद्ब्रह्म किमध्यात्मं किं कर्म पुरुषोत्तम अधिभूतं च किं प्रोक्तम् अधिदैवं किमुच्यते. Arjuna asks, what is Brahma? Kim Adhyatmam, what is Adhyatma? And what is Karma Purushottama? What is Karma? Adhibhudam, what is it? So all this you said that Adhidevam, what is it? So all this you said in the last chapter. Actually, this discourse is the continuous discourse for the acharyas for our understanding. From the ancient time itself, the acharyas, they have divided it into different chapters, that's all. But this is a continuous discourse given by Bhagavan Krishna on the center of the battlefield. So here Arjuna is asking, what are all these terms? What is Adhyatmam? What is Karma? What is Adhibhudam? What is Adhidevam? And in the next shloka, Sri Arjuna asks, Adhiyajñam katham kotra dehesmin madhusudana prayana kale cha katham nyeyosi niyatatmabhihi. What is Adhiyajñam? So all these terms are new to Sri Arjuna. So he's asking explanation. What is Adhiyajna? And very important, at the end time of a person, prayana kale cha katha nyayasi. How does a person remember you at the end time of his life? Prayana kali, how? Niyathatmabhi, where a person who has controlled his senses and lead a very perfect life, how does he remember you? So how does a person remember you at the time of the death, at the time of this jiva leaving this body? If we say death, then it is a great term, because from the young age we have been practiced, we have seen so much connected something horrible with that incident. Actually, death is nothing but leaving this body, the jiva leaving this body and taking another body, that's all. If you understand it, then there is no fear in it. Of course, there will be worry for the people who have left behind in this family or friends or everyone around. But for that person, it is a journey. But for the people who are witnessing it, it's a horrible incident, but not for that person who is taking that journey. So Bhagavan Krishna is going to give explanation for all these terms in the next few shlokas. Shloka 3, chapter 8, Bhagavad Gita. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavodhyatmamuchyate Bhuda Bhavodbhavakaraha Visargah Karma Sanghitaha. Aksharam Brahma, that is imperishable, that Brahma which is supreme, that is its nature, that Brahma which is all pervading, when it exists as the self of the individual, when it exists as the Atma, when it exists as the self in this body, this Akshara body, when that Akshara Brahman exists in it, that is Adhyatma. So, Atma or the self which is existing in this body is Adhyatma. And Bhuda Bhavodbhavakara, that anything which is connected with creation or manifestation or sustenance, any action created with that creation. It can be the yagas, that is the sacrifices given as the offerings to the devas, so that the devas help a person to create or to manifest. All the actions connected with the creation or sustenance or manifestation, that is the real karma. So in this shloka, Bhagavan Krishna is giving explanation for two terms asked by Sri Arjuna. First is the Adhyatma, it is the self, that is Adhyatma, and the karma, any action related with the creation is karma. There is always a creative urge in every being, that creation urge in every being. And that urge is that subtle divine power that is existing in an individual to create. And that is the real karma. Out of that, we do many karmas, and that is the real karma. In the next shloka, shloka 4, Bhagavan Krishna explains about gives explanation for the remaining terms that was asked by Sri Arjuna. Adhibhudam ksharo bhavaha purushaschadhidaivatam adhiyajno hyamevatra dehe deha vridhamvara. What is Adhibhudam? Adhibhudam are the basic elements. That elements itself, they are inert and they are kshara, they are perishable. The Panchabhuta Tattva is that Adhibhudam. And out of that, all these five elements which are inert, this Jada Prabhanja itself is formed. So it is the Kshara nature of Bhagavan, that is the Kshara nature of Brahman, the perishable nature of Brahman. The Akshara nature of Brahman is the self and it is existing in all the living beings. But the Adhibhudam is the Kshara nature of that imperishable Brahman. That with that only all these bodies are formed, all the forms are formed. All the forms are the different combination of these five elements. And what is Purusha? Purusha means that which fills this body is Purusha. So the self is the Purusha. The soul is the Purusha. Not only in this one, in this body, in all the forms that is filled. That is, the entire universe is filled with that Purusha. And so it is called Purusha. The indwelling self in a person is Purusha. Now, the next term Bhagavan Krishna explains is Adhidaiva. The senses, the mind, the intellect, they are all inert. They cannot operate alone. They need the support and power of Brahman, which is existing in the self as Atma. They draw power from the self, Atma, and they all perform their actions. So the Deva for all these, that is the senses, mind, and the intellect, the Lord of all these senses is Atma. So Atma is the Adi Deva. It is the Deva, the Lord of the senses, mind, and intellect. Atma is the Lord of the senses, mind, and intellect, and so Adi Deva also means the Atma. And the next term is Adhi Yajna. The Yajna, we give offerings to the Yajna to satisfy any desires. So Bhagavan Krishna in the previous verse chapter itself, he said, what all Yajna you do, what all offerings you give to whatever deity we may offer that offerings, it all comes to me. So Bhagavan Vishnu or Bhagavan Krishna, in the form of Atma, he receives all the offerings given by the human beings. Existing in each and every being, he receives the offerings given by the beings. He receive all the offerings given by the beings, what all yajna you may perform or what all deity you may give that offerings to, but it all goes to Bhavan. And so he says that I am that one who is existing as the Antaratma and receives the offerings that is done by this physical body. So Adi Yajna also means Antaratma, that is Atma or self. So it is the Atma or the self, that is the Adhyatma, the Purusha, Adhideva, Adhiyajna, and Adhibhuta is the Kshara nature of Brahman, and karma is what all you do to create in a human being. What all actions we do for the purpose of creation is the karma. So all these terms were explained by Bhagavan Krishna, but for the question asked by Sri Arjuna. Now, all these terms, why all these are terms are different when it is all this as Brahman, then why all these different? That is, they represent the different levels of existence. Say, Adi Bhuta means that is the materialistic level, that is, it is for the transactional reality. For the Adi Yajna, that realm of existence. Then Adi Bhuta, Adi Yajna, Adi Deva, that is for the mental level. So these are all the different levels of existence, and it is only Bhagavan, because there is nothing else in this world, in this creation, other than Brahman. So when it comes to the different levels of existence, the nama changes, and accordingly the meaning also changes. But it's ultimately it's all Brahman. So that's the very beautiful explanation given by Bhagavan Krishna to the terms or the question asked by Sri Arjuna. And again also remains, Sri Arjuna asked in that second sloka, how will a person when they, at the end time, and how will they remember you? And for that, Bhagavan Krishna is giving answer in the fifth shloka, chapter 8. अन्तकाले च मामेव स्मरन्मुक्त्वा कलेवरं यप्रयाति समद्भावं याति नास्त्यत्र संशयः. Here Bhagavan Krishna is almost declaring and giving confidence by his words that Antakale cha mameva smaran. If a person remember me alone in their end time, when the jiva is about to leave this body, when that jiva remembers me alone, Kalevaram means this body, yet prayadi sa madbhavayati, that is definitely he will attain me. Nastyatra samshayam, there is no doubt in it. Doubtless he will attain me. At the end time of the jiva, when it leaves that body, at that end time, when that jiva or that individual remember me, then he will attain me. One can one can think of the form of Bhagavan or the Leelas of Bhagavan, or if a person is more advanced in spirituality, then one can think about that abstract concept. Then one will merge with that infinity. That's what in the last chapter itself Bhagavan Krishna said. If we think of that finite form, then we will merge in that finite form only. If we always think and practice of that infinite form, then in the end time, that thought will come to us and we will merge in the infinity. That's why he said, Bhagavan Krishna said that if we do the lower form of worship, like the tamasic worship or the rajasic worship, not that elaborate or not that much, what to say, not that much advanced, then that person will merge with that finite form only. So that's what Bhagavan Krishna said, and now he is giving explanation for it. So a person, if he think of Bhagavan at that end time, he will merge with Bhagavan. There is no doubt in it. Bhagavan Krishna is giving his word. And in the next shloka also, the same concept is explained. यय्यौ वापि स्मरन् भावं त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरं तं तमेवैति कौन्तेय सदा तद्भावभावितः. Not only me, whatever a person think at the end time, he will attain that. If he think of that any object, then he will attain that. If he think of any unsatisfied desires in his life, then he will attain that. Whatever a person thinks at the end time, he will definitely attain that. Tam tam yeva aiti. He goes to that form only. That form, whatever he thinks at the end time, whatever it may be. That's why what we will think at the end time in the Shastras it is said is the dominating thoughts of in our life, throughout our life, we might have some dominating thoughts that will come to our mind in the end time. Throughout the life, if we are so much worried about attaining money, status, going after it, then that thought only will come in the end of life. So some people throughout their life, they want to take revenge on someone. So that thought will come to them. Some people, they might have some unsatisfied desires. We all have some unsatisfied desires because all our desires cannot be satisfied. Many people will have unsatisfied desires, prominent unsatisfied desires. So they think about it continuously throughout their life. Throughout their life, that will be their dominating thoughts. So thought, then that will come to their mind, pop up in their mind at the end time. Because at the end time, we may think, that is, at the end time, we'll think of Bhagavan, but that's not possible because throughout the life, we have to practice. Whatever we have practiced, that will come to the life. Because when the end time comes, all the body, that is a Kshara Sharira, it is perishable, and this body and all the senses that will be very weak, but the mind will be very powerful. It will think of that thing which we have practiced it throughout our life. Some people, I think it's very common among the people who are very old when they are when their age is very advanced, they themselves think that their life is blocked. They do not have any future. So they themselves has put a way before them and they have blocked their future. And when something is obstructed in front, what will happen? We will go backwards, isn't it? So all the past thoughts come to their mind. All the past thoughts come to their mind. It might have been the rubbish. They take that from there, and they again revive in their mind. So that should not be done. And what's the human nature itself is, when someone insults us, that will form deep impression in our mind. When someone praises, that will not form that much deep impression, because what many people think is, when someone praises, when we repeatedly think of it, then it will boost our ego, and so they avoid thinking about it continuously. So that may not form impression. What is needed is, we have to think about it, enjoy it, but at the same time must be a balanced person. But when someone insults us, we repeatedly think over it, and that forms deep impression in our mind. Any failures or insult or any slander, or someone said like this, so when I was so young, that person called me like this, that will form a deep impression in our mind. At the old age, all these thoughts come, and they will be on the top floor of our mind. So at the end time, all this will come to our mind. So what happens is, whatever we think, according to that only our next janma will be. If we think of our unsatisfied desires, then definitely in the next janma we will attain that, but may not attain Bhagavan. So to have a very peaceful and liberated life, one must think of Bhagavan at the end time, and it is not so easy. As I said, at the end time, all our senses and the organs, everything will be very weak, but the mind will be fresh. That's what Bhagavan Sri Krishna is explaining in this shloka. Whichever thought, smaran, whatever they remember at that end time, that they go. They go to that. If they think of me, they will come to me. If they think of some objects, then they attain that object. Or if they think of some position or the way of life they want, then they attain that. There is no doubt in it, Bhagavan Krishna is telling. And in the next shloka also, the continuation of this same concept. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmaradyudhya cha mayarpita mano buddhihi mahame vaishyasya samshayam. Bhagavan Krishna is telling in this shloka that, therefore, Arjuna, always think of me. Sarveshu kaleshu, all time, Mam Anusmaran, that is, think of me alone. Even when you yudhya, even you are going for the war, battle, think of me. Now one may think that how is it possible? In the next shloka, Bhagavan Krishna is, in the next line he is telling, my arpita mano buddhi, the mind and the buddhi should be in me. Which means, what does Bhagavan mean by that? When we perform any action, we have to remember about that action only, think of that action only. Sri Arjuna is going for the yuddha, so you must think of that yuddha only, how to conquer them, like that. But Bhagavan is telling, think of me. Place your mind and buddhi in me. What does that mean? What Bhagavan means by that is, one must have conviction and confidence that I exist in Bhagavan. This mind and buddhi exists in Bhagavan. That is this universal consciousness. It can be said as Brahman, it can be said as the self, it can be said as Atma or Paramatma or Bhagavan Krishna or Bhagavan Vishnu, whatever it may be. This mind and buddhi exists in Bhagavan. Having that conviction, having that confidence, one must think of that action and perform the action. Do the action. Then, whatever comes as the result, one may fail or one may get success in whatever we do. That's only external action, but we will reach Bhagavan. That's assured. That's Bhagavan is telling that Mam eva aishyasi asamshayah, then he will come to me. So one must have the conviction and confidence that I exist in Bhagavan, then perform that action perfectly up to our knowledge. Whatever the result may be, then we will attain Bhagavan. Then sure, Bhagavan Krishna is telling that you will attain me doubtless, asamshayam. So this conviction or confidence doesn't come in a day or two. It has to be practiced. And that is given in the next shloka. Bhagavan Krishna says, Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanya paramam purusham divyam yadi partanu chintayan. Bhagavan Krishna is telling, Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena Chedasa, the mind that has practiced this continuously, steadfast by the method of habitual meditation, constant meditation, keeping that mind and buddhi in Bhagavan, always by continuously. Constant practice, that is steadfast devotion, is very important. As I said in my last video, what even to practice any art, to become a singer, all these are externally, we are displaying our talent. For even that, we have that talent to display it out, we have to do practice, isn't it? Then what to think about the mind, to join the mind with Bhagavan? We have to continuously practice it for a long time. Must have the conviction that this mind and body, this mind and intellect exists in Bhagavan. It exists in Bhagavan. There is nothing else other than Bhagavan. One must have this conviction. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chedasa, by that mind that has continuously molded by practicing this meditation. Now anyakamina, without any other desire. If at the time of meditation, if we have any other desires, worldly desires, then that meditation will be distracted. So one must not have any other desires, and not to attain anything also we must meditate. We should not meditate like that, because when we are with Bhagavan, then we will have that intelligence and power to attain anything in life. Of course, according to our prarabdha karma. There may be some desires which cannot be attained. Definitely, everyone will have some set of desires, unsatisfied desires, but that's part of life. But one should meditate with this point in mind. I exist in Bhagavan, that confidence. This Jiva is Bhagavan only. That confidence, I exist in Bhagavan. One must have that conviction, then perform any action. Paramam Purusha Divyam, that we must understand that I exist in that supreme Purusha, divine supreme being. Myself is that, my Atma is that. One must have that knowledge or understanding. Anuchintayan, so when we always think of that Bhagavan, definitely he goes to that supreme person. So Bhagavan Krishna is telling one should meditate without having any other desires. One should meditate constantly. Then we go to that supreme person, and we should meditate not that finite form, must meditate on the Paramam Purusham Divyam, that supreme divine person. So when we practice like this throughout our life, then at the end of the time, this thought will come to our mind. Bhagavan is telling definitely it's by nature, this thought will come to our mind. And whatever thought comes to our mind at the end time, we will merge in it. So very clearly Bhagavan Krishna has given the answer for the questions of Sri Arjuna. Now I will take a break and continue with the rest of the shlokas of Bhagavad Gita in my next video. यत्र योगेश्वरः कृष्णः यत्र पार्थो धनुर्धरः तत्र श्रीर्विजयोर्भूति ध्रुवा नीतिर्मतिर्मम ॐ श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु.